This video is brought to you by Ghost in the Shell First Assault. The Elder Scrolls universe has a deep and interesting lore filled with stories that are both weird and wonderful. From the frozen wastes of Skyrim to the wetlands in Morrowind, there's a lot of tales to tell in Tamriel, but here are some of the weirdest and most interesting parts of the Elder Scrolls lore to date. Did you know, for example, that the two moons that orbit the planet are made of the sundered corpse of Lorcan, the mysterious deity responsible for the creation of the planet Nirn, where the Elder Scrolls series is based? The creation of Nirn drained the gods, or Aedra, of their power and divinity. Now, most of them gave up on the project after realizing its cost, and the few that didn't became the original 8 divines, and Lorcan himself was cracked into, and his divine spark, or heart, fell to the planet's surface whilst his body became its moons. The 8 divines, now weakened, became confined to their own planes, which the mortals of Nirn see as planets. One of the strangest and creepiest places in Cyrodiil is a small village called Hackdirt. Founded in the Third Era as a mining town, its villagers discovered a network of tunnels beneath the settlement and slowly became aware of the presence of Daedra-like people who lived far underground, known simply as the Deep Ones. The villagers met with the chief of these beings, who taught them his language and runes as well as the lore of his people. Many of the villagers moved underground permanently to be closer to the Deep Ones, and over time they transformed to become wide-eyed and absolutely insane. These people became known as the Brethren and dug tunnels beneath all the homes of the village to connect them together. The people of Hackdirt, now mad and absolute zealots, became isolated from the rest of the world and grew increasingly hostile to any outsiders. After several murders, the Emperor grew tired of fighting to keep the peace in Hackdirt and sent in an Imperial Legion to burn the place to the ground. The Deep Ones fled, and the few surviving citizens who were unwilling to leave began to rebuild the town and continued to worship the Deep Ones. Continuing to live underground, the Brethren descended further into madness and hatched their plans to bring about the return of their idols by making human sacrifices. Did you know that according to the Green Pact of the Bosma, they're not allowed to eat any vegetation or use wood for any form of construction? As a result, the Wood Elves, a strictly carnivorous race, and even more shockingly, practice ritualistic cannibalism. According to the so-called meat mandate, they are required to eat fallen enemies before 3 days have passed. The Bosma who follow this facet of the pact will often prepare for battle by fasting to allow them to eat more of their victim's flesh. It's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet. You don't eat for at least 12 hours beforehand so that you can really gorge yourself. The pact also says the families of the warriors are allowed to help them to devour the spoils of war because you don't want the meat to go to waste. Although this practice has diminished over the years, it is still upheld in some small villages. Think of that the next time you want to roleplay as a Wood Elf. I do that myself. I think, hey, I'm gonna play as Link. Link who eats Zelda, eats his people. What a fiend. The Khajiit you can meet or play as in the Elder Scrolls games are just 2 of at least 18 species or breeds within the race. Other breeds range from, get this, those as small as house cats that are able to cast spells, to those that are twice the height of a grown man and are used as steeds in battle. One of the most interesting breeds is the Mane. Only a single Mane can be alive at any one time, and it's actually believed there's only ever been one Mane who is reborn again and again in different bodies. The Mane is essentially the leader of the Khajiit, and as a sign of deference to the Mane, other Khajiit would shave off their hair to be tied into locks which would be braided into the leader's own mane. As the Khajiit population grew, this became pretty impractical, but the current Mane still wears the hair of its tribe and warrior guard, which numbers several hundred. As such, he's so weighed down, it's impossible for him to move without aid. He's just lying on the ground covered in hair. What a great life. The Altmer, Bretons, and once the Snow Elves all worshipped a god called Finasta, whose greatest contribution was teaching the Altmer that they could live for another 100 years by just taking smaller strides as they walk. Man, this is like the easiest way to become a god. You would be forgiven for thinking that the giant light in the sky in the Elder Scrolls games was nothing more than a ball of flaming gas millions and millions of miles away. A sun, you might say. Well, you'd be wrong. Dead wrong. If you remember earlier, we talked about the gods who abandoned the creation of Nirn after realizing it would cost them their power. Well, the first deity to flee was Magnus, the god of magic, and as he made his escape, he tore a hole right through the sky, which would become the sun you can see in the game. Soon after he left, others followed, leaving smaller holes, which would become the stars. It's these holes that allow magicka to flow into the world and give people born under a certain star sign their magical powers. One of the most mind-blowing parts of the Elder Scrolls lore is the life of Perennial Whitestrike. He was a legendary hero of years long past who fought alongside Saint Alessia in the slave rebellion against their alien overlords. He was a great fighter, but the bloodlust would often get the better of him, and he would go into a rage, slaughtering hundreds of elves before he could calm down. Also, he's a time-traveling robot from the future. His first name means Star-Made Knight, which many interpret as him being a machine built by the gods. The second name, Whitestrike, comes from the tales of his left hand being made of a killing light, which is believed to be some kind of laser. Most of this information comes from the Song of Perennial, which also says that he had a chest that gaped open to show no heart, only the red rage shaped in a diamond fashion. The song also talks of him defeating an opponent in a duel and how he then ate his neck veins while screaming praise to Raman, a name that no one knew yet. Raman is otherwise known as the worldly god and was a cultural god hero for the Second Empire, an empire that wouldn't exist for more than 2,000 years. While the in-game evidence is far from conclusive on the idea of him being a time traveler, it was confirmed by Michael Kirkbride, a lore writer for the Elder Scrolls series, in a Reddit post where he stated, "Perennial came back to fix the future." Essentially, he's Tamriel's Terminator. They're just a few of the weird and wonderful pieces of lore that we have tracked down, but I'm positive that there are more stories out there, so please let me know in the comments below which tales you've discovered and would you like to see a follow-up video, because like Fallout, we love Elder Scrolls and we're just waiting for Argonia or something to drop. Give us something. Until then, we're just going to keep making these videos. They're so much fun. As always, this is Dash for Cursing. Thanks for watching and enjoy the game. Smaller steps will increase your lifespan. Trust me, yes, I'm a god, yes. This video was brought to you by Ghost in the Shell First Assault. Play the open beta now on Steam. To find out more about this game, check out the videos on the left or visit firstassaultgame.com.